In this video, I'm going to show you step by step how you can go about opening a company in Dubai, obtaining residency, and relocating there. This is a process that I went through over 2 years ago at this point, and I've made a lot of expensive mistakes, both in terms of time and money as well, and some of these weren't even my fault at all. So I really hope that by you watching this video, you will be able to avoid these expensive mistakes and have a much smoother process relocating than I had myself. So without any further ado, let's jump into the video. My name is Vince from Peak Zone, and let's get started. Step 1 of the entire process is having the right exit strategy from your current country. Because the thing is, if you don't have the right strategy and if you don't know the exact laws around leaving and exiting your current country, then you might end up still getting taxed even if you set up your business in Dubai and moving, which can be obviously a huge waste of money and also a lot of effort for nothing at the end. So you want to make sure that you don't have that happen to you. The first thing you need to understand is your current country's tax residency rules. For example, if you're coming from the UK, you will need to pass something called the statutory residence test. But if you're American, well, you're kind of out of luck, because unless you are willing to give up your citizenship, you're still going to be taxed, doesn't matter where you live in the world. However, for most European countries, Australia, Canada, UK, you will be just fine, but you need to make sure to check the exact exiting rules and also tax residency rules of your current country. So the actionable step right here is to go to your current country's tax authority website and download their non-tax resident guidelines. You want to study these like your financial freedom depends on it, because it actually does. But once you've figured out how to exit your current country's system, then there is a Dubai company setup structure that you can use, which will save you hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars a year in taxes. I will get to that in just a minute. The second part though is the money question. Let's talk about what nobody really wants to discuss, but everybody's thinking about. How much money do you actually need to make this entire move work? And also, how much should you be earning for this move to be worth it in the first place? I'm going to give you the real actual numbers and not just some sugar-coated bullshit. To get set up in Dubai properly, for most people, it's going to be between $8,000 to $10,000 plus. If you need to set up a company, you need to get your own visa. If you need multiple visas, it can be even more. But generally, for most people, if you are looking for a free zone company, which let's say is perfect for you if you're doing business outside the UAE online, then it's going to be around that ballpark. There are some firms out there who will quote you $25,000 or even $50,000 for a company set up in Dubai. There are other ones which will quote you like $1,000. You want to avoid both of those extremes, because the $1,000 ones are realistically just going to take your money and vanish from the ground of the earth, and you'll never see any returns from that. And the super expensive ones will probably set up the company for you, but also rip you off in the process. So you want to go for a good high quality service provider in the middle, where you maybe are paying a little bit of a premium, but you are getting an actually amazing service and a lot of value for your money. So this roughly $10,000 budget includes setting up the company, getting your visas, the medical test you will need to take, getting your Emirates ID, the biometrics, and everything in that process. In terms of the income I would recommend to move to Dubai with, I would say if you're making $10,000 to $15,000 at least per month in profit, then it's a good idea to make the move. Anything less than that, in my opinion, it just doesn't make that much sense, because you might have higher cost of living here in Dubai compared to your country, unless you are from a major city in England or Canada, let's say. And at that point, the tax savings just simply won't justify the hassle that you have to go through. If you're making more than $10,000 a month though, in my opinion, it's a great idea. Now that we went through your exit strategy, we went through the money question. The third part is the visa strategy. There are basically 3 ways to get residency in Dubai if you are not coming here to work a job. You have the golden visa, you have the investor visa, and you also have the employment visa through your own company. And this third option is the one that I would recommend for most of you guys who are entrepreneurs looking to relocate. The golden visa though is definitely the holy grail, because it's valid for 10 years and it's the one that gives you the most flexibility. If you buy a property that's worth at least 2 million dirhams, around $550,000 US, then you can actually apply for a golden visa. Or if you meet a specific investment criteria. There is multiple ways to go about it, but the real estate investment route is the most popular way to obtain it. But for most of you watching this, you will go the business setup route. So basically, you will set up a company in Dubai and then you will issue an employment visa for yourself through that company. It sounds a bit complicated, but trust me, it's actually quite straightforward. If you want want help with setting up your company, getting your visa, opening your bank accounts here, and even with just in general help with the relocation, like finding an apartment to live in and just getting to know all the best places in the city and how everything works here, I would be more than happy to help you with that. So if you're interested, you can go to peakzone.com or click the first link in the description down below and book in a free consultation call with me personally. But there is one critical mistake that I see people making all the time when trying to obtain their visa, and it's what leads to a lot of them getting rejected and just failing this entire process. I'm going to explain to you that in the next step. So step 4 or part 4 of this process is the business setup. Do you want to go for a free zone company or a mainland company? Here's the simplest way I can explain it. If you have an online business and you're selling services or digital products outside the UAE, then you generally want to go for a free zone company. It's cheaper and it's easier to set it up. If you are doing business within the UAE and selling B2C within the UAE, let's say, then you want to register a mainland company. Obviously, there's a lot more nuance that goes into it, and if you want me to explain it, we can do it on a private one-on-one call, but that's the easiest way to explain the differences between the two. When I first moved here over 2 years ago, I went with the free zone setup because I was already selling digital products and services outside the UAE only. It was faster and cheaper to set it up as well, and I can charge 0% VAT on all the sales that I make outside the UAE. However, you do need to make sure that everything is set up professionally and planned professionally throughout this entire process, because if you don't, you can get slapped with really heavy fines and even get shut down. Now, step 5 is the paperwork process. Once you have set up your business, you will issue yourself an entry visa through that. This is not the full residency yet. This is the part where you actually have to fly into Dubai to finish the rest of the process. Just setting up the company alone, you can do that online from the comfort of your home and only fly into the country once you need to actually get your Emirates ID. Now, one thing I do want to really highlight here, because this is a detail that the company I work with didn't tell me, and it caused me a lot of headache and a lot of money wasted, is that when you are entering the UAE with your entry permit, you need to go to the immigration counter at the airport and actually get your e-visa stamped and make sure that it's validated, because otherwise, if you just come in through the automatic gates and you don't go to the immigration counter, then your visa is not going to be activated and it will lead to a lot of unnecessary paperwork and expenses at the end. But anyways, once you have your e-visa stamped, you are in the country, here are the next steps. You'll need to visit an Amer center for your Emirates ID application. You need to complete a simple medical test, which we can get done for you in a VIP process, so it's super quick and you get the results in like 30 minutes on your phone. And you also need to complete a biometrics appointment where they take your fingerprints. After you've done these, you will get your Emirates ID, which is kind of like your local ID here that you will use for everything. You can get that shipped to your address or to our office, which is a lot more convenient, because then you will not have to stay at home all day long to wait for the delivery guy to randomly show up. And then you're pretty much done. Once you have your Emirates ID, you can also open personal and business bank accounts basically the same day. You have an active company that you can start using, and you can also start renting your own apartment with your Emirates ID. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So it's not as complicated as it might look at first sight. But one thing I would definitely recommend is to not book your return flight back home until you are actually holding your Emirates ID in your hand. Now, step 6 is the living setup. Once you're officially a resident, here's how to set up your new life in Dubai without getting ripped off. In terms of areas to live in and rent in, it really depends on your personal lifestyle choices and also your budget. If you want, we can also help with that, of course. And I can also connect you with my personal agent who helped me to find my apartment and just helps me in general with everything real estate related in Dubai. As far as banking, Weo is a really good starting point. It's easy to get set up with them. They work really well in my opinion. I've been using them for over 2 years. And then later on, you can also open some other banks like Emirates MBD if you want. For finding an apartment to rent, I highly recommend using Bayout or Property Finder. They are both amazing apps/websites that you can use to find properties. One thing you do want to keep in mind though is that most landlords here only take checks. So you would actually get a checkbook from your bank and you have to pay through that. And you can get some nice discounts generally if you pay in 1 check or 2 checks for the whole year. However, some landlords actually expect that and won't give you a discount. For everyday life, like ordering a taxi or food, you want to use Careem. This is what most people use in the region. And that's basically it. But there's one piece of final information I want to give to you, which could save you a bunch of money in the process. Dubai did introduce a 9% corporate tax in 2023, but until the end of 2026, there is still this thing called the Small Business Relief Program. What this means is that if your revenue is under 3 million dirhams a year, which is about 800,000 US dollars, you can actually, in most cases, get away with paying 0% tax. So you don't need to pay the 9% corporate tax that you would otherwise have to pay on all the profits over $100,000. But even if you don't qualify for the small business relief, you can obviously optimize this 9% corporate tax by, for example, giving yourself a salary through your company, which can help you to reduce all the profits that you have over $100,000 for the year. Optimizing your company expenses smartly alone can save you tens of thousands of dollars a year in corporate taxes. That's why it's important to work with somebody who knows the entire system in and out. So we have covered your exit strategy from your current country, the money requirements to make the move, the different visa options that you have to move here, the business setup question, the paperwork process, the living arrangement, and also tax optimization. But here's the thing, knowing this information and actually implementing it and making the move are two different things. I know this process can seem overwhelming at first, but that's exactly why I created Peak Zone, where we help entrepreneurs just like you to make the move, set up their companies, get their residencies, and relocate their entire life to Dubai. If you want help with that as well, check the first link in the description down below where you can book a free consultation call with me personally. And keep in mind that this window of opportunity is slowly closing in. More and more countries are introducing new exit taxes and just in general making it harder and harder to leave. So this is not something that you want to procrastinate. You also need to remember that every single month where you're not paying super low taxes, you're actually losing actively tens of thousands of dollars, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars, to your current country's tax system. So don't delay this move. This was one of the best decisions of my life when I decided to make my Dubai company over 2 years ago. So I really hope that this video was helpful for you. I hope you have better understanding of the entire process now. And I hope to see you in the next video as well, and potentially even speak in the near future.